Okay, we're going to have a chat with the legendary cyclist in Jens Voigt. He's larger than life in many ways, but a big name in cycling. Morning, Jens.
Good morning, sir.
You're in Australia at the moment to promote Zwift, but your career actually started in Australia many years ago.
That is true. My first race in Australia was the Pacific Power Commonwealth Bank Cycle Classic. It's an awful long name. In '94, I did that. I ended up winning it. And then in '97, I signed my first professional contract here in Australia with a team that was half Australian and half from the Czech Republic. And that was interesting to meet all these Australians, and that was an eye-opening experience.
You fell in love with Australia right there?
Well, already in '94.
Volume.
Already in '94, I loved Australia. I remember in that race, since it was an amateur race and there was less budget, you would cross the finish line and then you would look for people holding up a sign with your name and you would sleep at their house. And sometimes you would hit the jackpot and it would be a German family, they actually produced their own beer in their backyard. But sometimes you would be sleeping in the barn. You would never know before the race is finished. So that was a huge adventure, and already since then I liked the laid back attitude of Australians, that they are relaxed and rather have fun than suffer.
So I think in some ways you've also been accused of being an Australian at times.
Yeah, and I'm pretty happy and pretty proud about it. Back in the days when I worked with the boys, I actually almost had an Australian accent. But now only a few words like, fair dinkum, I reckon, I meet you in the Arvo, not afternoon, but Arvo. A few of them stick with me. But yeah, I have a good connection to Australia.
So that was under Ico, who's obviously now working with the British team. And it was a very start of Australian cycling in as such. Then your career ended last year with the hour record.
Yes, yeah, probably 18 years after I signed with Heiko. It was a long career, and I was happy that I could actually finish with a good event to give the fans, like one last time, something to laugh at. Go like, hey, look at the old Jensi. He's doing the hour record. He's crazy. So it was a good way to say goodbye to cycling. And yeah, after 18 years as a pro, it was also time to hang up the wheels.
It's a long career.
Yes, indeed.
For a very demanding sport, so it was actually a very long career. And you had some highlights along the way, obviously.
Yeah, I think I'm allowed to say that I did win one or two races. So yeah, I think I had a good career. Well, at least I am happy about it.
So what do you think was the highlight of your career?
Well, my best day on the bike must have been 2005 Paris-Nice. We had Bobby Julich in yellow jersey, going to the last stage into Nice, and 30k to go. There's only Bobby Julich left and me. So Bobby in yellow and me, the only teammate, and about 30 other guys willing to attack and take the jersey of Bobby. So Bobby has helped me many times in my career to win something, and I knew that his wife and his daughter, they're gonna be at the finish line because Bobby lives in Nice. And yeah, in the end, I probably was on one of my strongest days in my life, and I saved the day for Bobby, and we ended up on a podium together. And then to see his wife and his daughter almost crying in joy and happiness because Dad won the race, I would say that was my best day on the bike.
Yeah, you've always been considered one of the complete teammates, and I think it's been mentioned in those days that maybe you could have taken the yellow jersey yourself on that day, having previously held the yellow jersey twice in your career.
Well, yeah, I believe that, or when I look back at it and talk also with Bobby Julich about it, Bobby also says, yeah, if you wanted to, you could have attacked that day and take the stage win and the yellow jersey, but it was not my day, it was Bobby's day. And that's what makes it so special, that I could help not only my teammate, but also my friend to win a big race. So I would say that was my best day on the bike.
I also remember a day on the Tourmalet, maybe in 2008.
Yeah.
Where you were absolutely amazing. You were riding climbers off the wheel.
Yeah, we had like a master plan on that day. We did send Fabian Cancellara on a breakaway and told him, you wait on top of the Tourmalet. And then on the bottom of the Tourmalet, which is a 20-kilometer plus climb in the Pyrenees, on the bottom, Bjarne come on the radio, goes, Jens, are you feeling good? I'm like, yes. Okay, Jens, we count on you. You just go full gas up this climb. And I knew on the top, I have Fabian Cancellara waiting for me. So I could go more or less full gas because I knew I have a very strong teammate waiting on top to help me. And yeah, I managed to basically drop everybody apart from 25 other riders. Then I saw Fabian on the top. He's a great descender. He took the descent from the front. I followed his wheel. We went full gas to the valley. And in the end, we ended up taking New Jersey.
So what was the ride that you think put Jens Voigt on the map? Which was the first ride that actually said, well, actually Jens Voigt is going somewhere in this sport?
Good question. I mean, as I said, I was the first time I was racing here in Australia in '94. And with the winning the Commonwealth Bank Classic and the points I got for that, I won the Amateur World Cup. So I knew I'm going to try to become professional already then. But maybe my first win as a pro in the '98 Tour of the Basque Country. Like a bad, rainy, terrible day. I was on a break, managed to drop the others, win the stage, and maybe there my team or myself realized, okay, he has a certain potential to become a good rider.
Your biggest day on the bike? The day you look back and say, well, that was my day. That was, well, not your day, but the team's day. The biggest win of the team's career that you were involved in.
Probably the team time trial in Tour de France 99? No, 2001. 2001, I'm sorry, 2001. We had Stuart Brady in yellow jersey. And so we started the team time trial as the last team. And we did get all the split times from the other teams and ended up winning the team time trial. And the team time trial is everybody's happy to win. It's like we won it, us. If an individual rider wins, it's great, but it's that one rider winning. The team time trial, everybody's happy. The whole team feels like I was part of this. That's what makes it so magic. Plus, we did beat some pretty good teams back then and kept the yellow jersey for Stewie.
You've been involved in some pretty big wins for other bike riders. Stewie O'Grady, Cancellara, who you've already mentioned. What is the satisfaction for you with regard to working for these guys, the guys that do win the bike races?
Well, the way I see it, I like to talk in metaphors because it makes things easier to explain. So in an ideal scenario, your career is like a circle, like a closed circle. You get in on the bottom end of the circle, and you all let people help you, give you advice. On the top end of the circle, you want to perform. You say, hey, I want to win this race, I want to have this special bike, I want to have the team behind me. And then when the circle closes on the bottom end again, your mind still knows how to win, but your body cannot win anymore. That's your moment to give back to the team. And in the ideal scenario, in the ideal world, it's perfectly balanced between taking and giving throughout your career. So I had my days in the sunlight. I had my days as a leader, but I also had my days where I just put the head down and killed myself or somebody else. And I feel it's pretty balanced in my career.
18 years as a professional, that's a fairly extended career. What do you put down to your longevity within the sport and maintaining the desire to race and turn up every year?
Well, you want to have the correct answer or you want to have the truth?
Give us the truth.
The truth is I'm married with 6 children and my mother-in-law lives in the house. Okay. So that keeps you going.
Well, you have 6 kids. So
yes, I have 6 kids.
That also takes
and the mother in the house living there,
yeah,
the mother-in-law.
Sure. Yeah.
No, I just loved what I did. I was in a lucky position that I discovered what I'm good at, and I liked it, and I could turn that into my job. I mean, you know, my office was being out there in the fresh air, listening to the birds singing, and keeping my body healthy and strong. That was my office. That was my job, so it doesn't get much better.
So the Tour Down Under, seeing we're here at the Tour Down Under, and it's one of Australia cycling's icons and one of the World Tour races. Did you ride the very first TDU?
Not the very first one, but already the second one.
The second one.
So I have seen how it keeps getting bigger and better every year. And I have done, now we have the 18s. I probably have done 14 of them as a bike rider, and now 2 as ambassador.
So it's that good, you still keep turning up, so.
Oh, absolutely, I love it here. There must be a reason why I come back.
And so your best memory from the tour?
Best memory is going to be clearly in the last year, or second last year of my career, going up Vilonga Hill, and as we already talked about it, in the last years of my career, I was a helper, I was a domestic. So my job was done on the bottom of the Vilonga Hill to get my leaders into the good position into the climb, and then I was getting dropped. As I'm riding along, trying to save some energy for the next days, there's a spectator, or a group of spectators, young men, running next to me and go, "Jensi, come on!" And he had a beer in the hand. He said, "Jensi, share a beer." And I grabbed the beer from the spectator, had a sip of the beer, passed it back to him. That was my favorite moment, having a beer with a spectator in the middle of the race.
What makes the Tour Down Under, it is different from every other tour that you would actually go to throughout the world. What makes the Tour Down Under special? You know, why do the riders want to keep coming back here?
It's the whole setup. You stay the whole week in one hotel, very short or next to no transfers. It's a great feeling it's the warm welcome of the people. You could see at this race people of South Australia, people of Melbourne, of Adelaide I meant, happy and proud to have it here. So you see the support of the whole community behind it, that they're happy to have that race here. And that's always a good feeling. And I mean, there's a lot of worse places in the world where you could start your season. You know, we are lucky.
And the coffee's good? The coffee is good?
Yes.
This is most important, I think.
Yeah, it is. To me, at least, it is.
Do you think this can be replicated anywhere else in the world? Do you think that this sort of tour is exceptional and maybe should be replicated?
It definitely is exceptional because, as I said, the whole setup. You have the same hotel, short or no transfers. You can go flat direction Glen Elk. You can go into some pretty tough climbing in the Adelaide Hills. You got the Barossa Valley. You got beautiful places. So it's all right here. You cannot duplicate that anywhere else.
Okay, let's talk about the Australian riders, the teammates that you've had that have been Australian, and the guys that you see, the cyclists you see in the peloton. Did the Aussies bring a different flavour to the peloton?
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, remember, wherever you're from in Australia, if it's Perth, Sydney or Adelaide, if you come to a European team, the closest way home is 30,000 miles. So it's not that you can go, "Hey daddy, I feel homesick, can you come?" And no, you gotta be tough. You gotta be a pretty tough cookie to make it in Europe.
So for a cyclist to make it to a pro team, they're halfway there because the directors, the team owners already know that they're there, they're ready to race, they're ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, everybody who signs up an Australian, he knows he gets a tough one, and he knows he gets a hungry one. Because in order to come from Australia to Europe, you not only got to have talent, you got to be hungry, you got to wanting it, you got to be, "I want to be there, I want to do it." So you can't go wrong with signing up an Australian.
And there's more and more Australian riders actually making it into the peloton through the AIS program, but also there's bike riders that make it without the AIS program. So cycling is getting stronger in Australia and being able to provide the numbers within the teams. This is a good thing for Australia.
Well, I mean, the first generation, Henk Vogels, Rory McEwen, Giotto Grady, or even before, Phil Anderson, they paved the way for the next generation to come. And now there's so much talent. I mean, Jack Bobridge, Cameron Meyer, Dennis Rohan, or Rohan Dennis, Richie Port. There's so much talent out there that it's very likely that within the next, whatever, 5 or 10 years, another Australian going to win the Tour de France to follow up Cadel.
Who's the next obvious one, do you think?
Rohan Dennis looks very promising. And Richie, of course. Them two, I think he got the best chance in the moment.
Richie is in an interesting situation though with TJ Van Garderen. Do you think that's a problem that might put its head up on the road?
Well, in the end, the leg's going to do the talking. It doesn't need to be big magic. He just needs to smash him. He just needs to win a race or needs to show enough potential in the Dauphiné Libéré or in Paris or in the Tour de Suisse. And if Richie wins the Tour de Suisse and TG finishes 12th, then pecking order's pretty clear. You just need to be strong.
So tell me, you left home in, what was the temperature when you left home?
Sorry?
When you left Germany, what was the temperature?
When I left it was about 0, maybe -1.
Maybe that's warm for Germany.
Yeah, we had a relatively mild winter, but now it's -5, -10, and snow. So I left right in time.
So and you come out and it's nearly 40 degrees. How do you go adjusting? How do you think the riders cope with that process of minus to 40 degrees?
Well, the riders are here more days than me because they gotta adapt their bodies. So for me, I don't have to race. And if it's too hot, I just go back to the hotel in the air condition. The riders don't have that option. That's why they come a week or 10 days early to prepare.
Okay, back to the TDU. Where do you think the Tour is going to be won this year?
Every day is important, of course, but 3 key moments. Corkscrew, you cannot win a Tour there, but you can very easily lose it by getting caught in the wrong position, getting caught or getting blocked behind, and then you lose time. The stage into Stirling, 5 laps on that circuit, it's pretty tough in January. So, in Stirling, it's tempting for riders to go too early and then they die in the end. Well, and then of course Willunga Hill, where the final word will be final decision will be made then on top of Willunga Hill.
Okay, let's talk beer.
Oh yeah.
German or Australian?
Actually, my friend, you know how Foster's beer, they do a lot of commercials in Europe, and one of their slogans is Foster's means Australian for beer. So when I came here, I thought every Australian drinks Foster's, and I almost got beat up by asking for Foster's beer. People were almost like kicking me out of the bar. I said, no pal, you cannot order Foster's beer here. So it's a pale ale or Crown Lager. I like them.
Okay. So you're still involved in pro cycling in a large way. Has that been a good way to leave the pro ranks? Because when you leave, there's an emptiness in some way, I'm sure, because the competitiveness has been taken away from you a little bit, but now you're still involved with Zwift and you still have the opportunity to be involved. Is this something that obviously you're really enjoying?
Well, of course I like to be involved in the sport I love, in the sport that gave me so much. But I left everything out there. I have not one competitive cell left in my body. I mean, after 33 years of cycling, 18 years as a pro, probably something 60 to 70 crashes, I don't want to suffer anymore. At least for 1 or 2 years until, it gets me back. I want to slow down a little bit so I can breathe a little easier. I think I was still on like 4 watts per kilo, going down to, well, I guess 2 watts per kilo.
It's been an easy transition then.
Yes.
To citizen. Okay, so we're actually here riding for Zwift, and we're on a virtual group ride. How realistic does it feel?
Well, since you have a smart home trainer, it is actually fairly pretty realistic If I sit behind a rider, my home trainer reduces the resistance. So I feel the drag, I feel the slipstream. If it goes uphill on the TV screen, my home trainer raises the resistance. So it's harder to pedal. If it goes downhill on the screen, I can also freewheel. So the home trainer is connected to the computer and to the TV. So what I see on the screen happens in my home trainer. It's a pretty smart system.
And through that, you can actually ride with anyone around the world in their lounge room. They're actually riding with Jens.
Yes, I just saw, if you look at the flags behind the names who are joining us tonight or today, it's the US and Canada, it's people from Korea, from Japan, and for one short moment I saw a flag from South Africa. So we are connecting 3 continents here, America, Africa and Asia. That's pretty unique.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, you can say that again. And we have 480 riders riding just now. You see that number there, yes. 480 riders. That's pretty cool.
I think though that just going for a ride with Jens is probably a big attraction. And you do this quite often, don't you? You actually get on the trainer and you ride with the group.
Yes, absolutely. Also, now at home we still have winter. It's cold. It gets dark really early. So being on Zwift is so much more comfortable than go out there in the snow and rain and risk of crashing. Please, people, look to the left, that whale. My kids just laughed that moment. Every time I go on Zwift, I gotta call the kids, hey kids, daddy's passing the whale.
That's pretty cool.
They all come running down to see me passing the whale. And then look at the dolphins on the ride. The kids love it.
So you would have seen from the start of your career to now a huge shift in the way that people actually train, the way that coaching takes place, the way the different messages come through, the new information that's now available. And Zwift is obviously the latest process of that. How good would have Zwift been at the start of your career?
Well, I probably would have won the Tour de France if I would have Zwift at the start. But it's so true what you say. When I started cycling or professional, they basically said, hey, any hard training is good training. And now, hard training is not good enough, it's not smart enough. You gotta train hard, but in the right way. There's so much more science and knowledge out there now to control your training, control your efforts. It makes cycling more exciting, more thrilling, because the general level of each rider is pretty high. You know, in the early 80s, Bernard Hinault, he had tagged 80 kilometers to go, 80 kilometers to go in Liège-Bastogne-Liège, and he won it with 11 minutes. If now, let's take the strongest possible rider. Let's say Nibali or Philippe Gilbert or Chris Froome attacks alone at 80 kilometers to go. People just laughing. They go, he's gonna die. I don't even need to accelerate. We're just gonna catch him. So the general level of each rider so much higher that people just don't win races anymore with 10 minutes at once. It's 10 seconds. You know, in Tour de France, my first tour, they told me the general rule is place 10 is 30 minutes behind the winner. Nowadays, if you 10th place, you're 4.5 minutes behind. You know, with half an hour behind, you finish 40th. So everybody is so much more fit because of just smarter training.
So the aspect of, you would have seen Bobridge's ride at the national championships on the weekend. This was an exceptional ride. This was one out of the box, and this doesn't happen all that often. So his aspect of what he was doing is almost taking him back to the good old days of racing, when you know, people took almost 10 minutes out of the.
I was excited to see it and follow the stream and see the result in the end. That you went on a daring move and you pulled it off. It doesn't happen anymore, or it doesn't happen very often anymore. Teams are so good organized and controlled, but they just underestimated Jack, and he pulled it off.
What is the point, the very thing that you like about Zwift? What is that you can actually say, well, this is what Zwift will do for me as a training tool?
You have, as a training tool now, okay, you have perfectly controlled conditions. You know exactly the climb It's going to have this gradient. The wind is non-existing, is non-factor here. So you can repeat the same effort day after day, week after week, at exactly the same conditions. So if you measure, or if you put your ride into memory, let's say 1st of January 2015, and you compare it with the 1st of January 2016, you know exactly if you're better or not, because you know exactly the same conditions. And that's what I like, that you can have precise information and precise training efforts.
Did you ride much indoors before Zwift?
In the winter months, yes, because sometimes it gets so cold in Germany that your training basically is trying to stay warm, trying to stay alive, because it's so cold. It's not an efficient training. So if you want to do some intervals in the winter months in Europe, it's so much better on a home trainer. Yeah, I did sometimes. But it was, back in the old days, fairly boring.
So Zwift, you think, is suitable for both pro and amateur? Anyone can use this program?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you decide how fast or slow you want to go. And let's say, if you live in the middle of New York or in the middle of London, and you come home from work at 6, by the time you put on your winter clothes and you find a free place to ride outside, 1 hour is gone. With Zwift, just put on a pair of knicks and a shirt, and you're on the home trainer in like 5 minutes. It's much more time efficient for people living in big cities, or the whole northern part of Europe, Sweden, Finland. Sometimes they have like 1 hour of daylight. There's no way in hell they can ride a bike there, so they all go on Zwift, or they could go on Zwift. So yeah, Zwift is good for everybody. If you want to hurt yourself and go really fast, there's plenty of place here on Zwift where you can go and hurt yourself.
So with Zwift, it's easier, do you think, to get that early race conditioning, the intensity that you need to start day one racing? Because as you've just suggested, it's very difficult to get that intensity in Europe in the cold weather. So riders are more prepared now for the intensity of day one racing.
I would say so. If they use it in the right way, the way they're supposed to be used, yes, they can train really precisely and get themselves ready for day one of racing, yes.
Okay, some different questions about the 2016 season. Disc brakes.
Well, I don't see a need for them, because in my eyes, the limiting factor of braking on the bike is the traction of the tire on the road. Because even with normal brakes, I can lock up the wheels fairly easy. With disc brakes, I can lock them up even quicker, because the grip of the tire on the road, that's what makes the brake work or not. And since we already produce enough braking power with normal brakes, I don't really think we need disc brakes. Plus, disc brakes, called disc brakes because they have a razor sharp disc. And in the case of crash, if this disc hits somebody's calf, that's going to be a deep cut. On the other side, we had Michael Iriza trying the disc brakes in the Vuelta a España on the Tour of Spain last year. And he is 100% convinced that he avoided one crash because he could brake better and faster with the disc brakes. He said they saw the crash happening in front of him. He braked, he was standing still, and people without disc brakes were passing him on the left or on the right and going into that pile of crash riders and crashing as well. So he's convinced he avoided the crash only because he had better disc brakes. So there's both opinions out there.
Obviously, at the start of the season, we always start talking about the Tour de France. The Tour de France is obviously the pinnacle of our cycling year. It's the time of season that everyone looks forward to. And this year we have maybe 2 or 3, maybe even 4 contenders. How do you think it's going to, if everyone stays healthy, how do you think it's going to pan out?
Well, that's just my private opinion. So please don't hold me responsible.
Because I'm going down to the betting agency right after I talk to you, okay?
I think we can slowly start to count out Alberto Contador for the win. He's a great rider, but after what, he got like 10 wins in the Vuelta, Giro and the Tour de France. I think he's maybe just not hungry enough anymore. You know, he's still going to be a great rider, and he might finish second, third, or fourth. But for the win, I'm not sure. So it's Nibali and Froome. Between them two, I think. For Quintana, it would have been last year or never. Because last year we only had very, very short time trial and the team time trial. So if there was ever a tour tailor-made for him, it was last year. This year they had 2 long individual time trials. He's going to lose 3 minutes each time trial to Froome. He's never going to make up 5 or 6 minutes to Froome in the mountains. So it's Froome or Nibali.
2 questions about Quintana. Obviously, last year, do you think he waited too long on Alpe d'Huez? And then do you think he actually could have attacked earlier?
Maybe not LPS, but the days before. I mean, a rider like Quintana, I also said the same to the Schleck brothers. I said, people, every normal stage, we arrive in the same time with Froome, or back then it was Belly Wiggins. It's a lost day for us. Every day we arrive together with them is a minus for us, because we standing at the start of Tour de France, Quintana or Andy or Frank Schleck, with minus 5 minutes because they're not good in time trialing. You got to keep in mind, at kilometer 0 you have a 5-minute deficit. So if you want to win a Tour de France, you got to go into the last time trial with at least 2 or 3 minutes at once, and you're going to make that up somewhere. It's unfortunately not enough to win a stage and win 20 seconds. You need minutes to better time trialer.
Richie Porte, he hasn't put 3 weeks together yet, and I think that's a lot of people's concern. But having said that, he's also spent a lot of time on the front for Sky, and riding for Sky is obviously a large obligation with regard to his teammates that he's actually had. Do you think he can put 3 weeks together being a designated bike rider?
Well, maybe I'm a little biased because Richie, I was his teammate in his first year professional, so I like him a lot. I really love him. So I go, hell yeah, he can, of course. Just give him a chance to like not work, not waste his energy, and then I'm fairly sure he can pull it off. I mean, he did finish once second in Giro Italia when he had all the freedom for himself, so why not?
We have a few very good time trialers now coming through as well. We have Jack Bobridge now riding for Trek. He obviously has obligations with the Olympic team this year, which may affect him in some way, but surely he's an opportunity also for the prologue and some other racing.
Definitely looks like Jack is on a good way to have like a almost spectacular comeback after a mixed season last year maybe. But this year was winning the national championships in impressive style. Yes, he's a good how we say, or he makes the team stronger. He makes the team better and stronger by buying him as a rider. But they already agreed that he, maybe after the tour, he gets his freedom to prepare for Sydney, or even before the tour. So maybe he's not in the tour because he got to go back to the track program with the Australian national team to get ready for Olympics. But there's a fair chance he wins a medal, or maybe 2.
Do you see a different Jack Bobridge this year compared with maybe where he's been in the past, a more focused, a more committed Jack Bobridge?
Definitely, I would say so. I think large part of it is he's just grown up. He's a father now, he has a bit of responsibility, and objectives in life maybe has changed. You know, he's maybe less interested in party and having good times, but being home with a family and his child. So that helps him to grow up and helps him to realize, okay, the better I perform, the better of a life I can provide for my children. So maybe he's more focused. The potential was always there. The talent, the raw talent, the potential was always there.
So this year we have some Australians actually vying for a possibility of wearing the yellow. Obviously Rowan Dennis with the prologue, Richie Porte and a few others. Australia has certainly stepped up in that area, but we've actually had a lot of yellow jerseys in the past that you've been part of.
I think it's eight Australians in
Yeah.
yellow.
Yeah. And obviously with the new bunch coming through, it looks very good for Australia.
Well, definitely it does. And not only do you have people who could win the prologue like Richie or Rowan Dennis, you got with Caleb Ewan, an up-and-coming top sprinter. You got Michael Matthews, Bling. You got him. He's like an established top pro in the moment. He is at the top of his career. So you also have people, they are actually pretty talented in sprinting. So Australia looks pretty good on all domains in the moment.
So let's talk about, you've mentioned Ewan, let's talk about the green jersey. I'm not sure that Ewan will ride the tour this year. Maybe it's a little bit too early. But we still have maybe Matthews who's targeting the green. But then we have Cavendish who needs to probably get back to his former glory. We have Kittel who who had a bad year last year. How do you see the green jersey going this year?
Well, that's easy. Peter Sagan. As long as Peter Sagan rides the bike, he will win the green jersey with double the points of second place. Or they make the green jersey that a sprint winner of a flat stage gets 100 points. But Peter Sagan makes so many points on intermediate sprints, on the medium hard and the harder mountain stages, that the sprinters just can't compete with Peter Sagan. Peter Sagan is just a multi-purpose weapon, and there's just no stopping.
You see Sagan as the best all-round cyclist at the moment, but when you say all-round, he's actually at the top of a lot of the categories, isn't he?
Oh yeah, he is, absolutely is. I mean, he's world champion. Green jersey in the Tour, winning the overall in the Tour in the Tour of California. So maybe apart from winning the Tour de France, there's not much he couldn't do.
Do you think that there's always pressure on the world champion to perform? I think that Sagan could be the first complete cyclist to actually turn the fortunes of the world championship jersey around.
Well, I believe that Thor Hushovd was a pretty good world champion. I think he won 2 stages in the Tour de France that year in the world champion jersey. But yeah, Peter is going to win easy another 10 races. Peter just doesn't feel pressure. Pressure doesn't exist. Pressure gets afraid of Peter Sagan and runs away. No, Peter Sagan is a legend. I like him as a character as well, as a human.
I think probably the aspect that he's still learning how to race as well is something that's actually going to he'll add to his weapons.
Well, I mean, he's a pretty complete rider already by now. And don't forget, he's 25, 26 now? So he's just out of the young professional category and already has, 50 wins. So there's a long and, pretty spectacular career ahead of him. And why not winning the World Championships another time? Maybe not this year, but maybe in 10 years or maybe in 2 years. So, Peter's always good to watch.
We talk about personalities in the sport of cycling, and obviously Sagan is one of those at the top of the list with regard to personalities. Jens Voigt was another personality within the sport. Do you think that we actually we are missing a few personalities?
Well, I must say, I'm happy that I had my time and that I'm out now, because the way cycling is, technology gets in there, but it's less space for being spontaneous. There's less space for racing on guts. It's all controlled. The director tells you, Jens, I know you can do 475 watts for 33.5 minutes, go now. And then they go, okay, Jack Bobridge, you can do 450 watts for 40 minutes, go now. And that's how races are done. It's maybe less exciting, but just the way it is. With technology helping everybody to control, to know exactly what's going on. And people like me, they go, the sun is shining, I'm gonna go on attack now. There's no space anymore for us. So you gotta be a soldier, go, yes sir, follow your orders. And just having your own ideas, there's less and less space for that. Because each race is super important for points, for results, for media exposure. It's less space for doing crazy tactics or going on a daring or maybe a suicide move. So I'm actually good that I'm out, because they don't need many people like me anymore. The
aspect of when you say, I think we always need people like you, Jens. I think that You know, the personality, the flavour of the sport comes from people like you.
Thanks for the kind words. So, I mean, there's enough. Jens' favorite roommate, there's a question from the crowd. Well, I spent most of my career together with Bobby Julich because we were so different. Bobby was really organized. He would fold his jerseys the night before, put on a number the night before, and I would do nothing but reading books or playing Game Boy. Back in the days with Bobby, I was really into playing Pokemon on Game Boy. My kids got me into that. So I was just catching Pokemons, and Bobby was reading about the race, about the mountains the next day, preparing stuff. And then when the mechanic comes in and said, "Hey Jens, tomorrow LPS, which gears do you want on your bike?" And I went, "Well, what's Bobby doing?" They said, "Oh, Bobby Julich is doing 39.23. I said, "Well, I do the same." So Bobby was always well prepared. I was never. But then in the morning, Bobby was really relaxed, and I was just stressing around, packing my suitcase, putting the numbers on, jumping on my suitcase to close it because it was too full. And Bobby was just laughing at me. Like I was just sweating like crazy, running to the team bus, jumping in the team bus like last second before they go. And Bobby would be there all prepared already 5 minutes before. So we were a good couple together. Bobby Julich, favorite roommate.
What was the best result that no one ever noticed of yours?
Best result?
Obviously
Well,
a few.
I won a Tour de Poitou-Charentes twice. Nobody has ever heard of it. It's a race in France, a 1 week states race, or 5 days, 2 weeks or 3 weeks after Tour de France. I won it twice, and apart from hardcore fans, nobody ever knows. But hey, it's a week of racing, you still gotta win it. So maybe that's one of them.
Your favourite bike race?
Probably the Criterium International. You know, I won it 5 times, tying the record with Bernard Thévenet. And I did beat some really good riders there. So, yeah, Criterium International.
Favourite climb?
Oh, really, I hated them all. But I liked LPS because it was always the last climb. You know, it's on finish on top, and there's like 1 million spectators. It was just awesome to go up there. I hated the most the Col de Madeleine, because most years when we arrived at Col de Madeleine from the steep side, it doesn't slow down or it doesn't go down like for a split second. And by the time we arrived there in the Tour de France, it would be so hot, the sun would be just vertical above you, and you felt like it's 80 degrees out there, the sun is just burning your back, sweating like crazy, and it's just a hard, steep climb. And I always get my head kicked in there. So Col de Madeleine is the worst climb.
The proudest moment of your career?
Proudest moment? Maybe the hour record. Yeah, because, I mean, I was 43. You know, it was the day after my birthday, so I was 43 years old. It was my last event ever. Nobody has done the hour record for like 10 or 11 years. I was fairly convinced I'm gonna make it, but there was no security, there was no guarantee. My parents were there, then Eurosport decided to show it live, and I'm not sure if it's true, but Eurosport told me, together with the internet live stream, they had 100 million viewers. I don't think it's true because...
Oh, I was one. I was one
that's
watching.
a Super Bowl level. 100 million Formula One is 100 million. But we had a lot of people, so I knew the pressure, and you don't want to fail in front of 1 million people. So there was a certain pressure, and I was pretty proud that I could stop my career with something like that.
Tell me what you went through that day. Tell me the emotion, the process of that day. You know, like the first 15 minutes compared with the last 15 minutes. It's so emotional roller coaster and psychological, demanding.
Well, we trained for months for it. Get used to the position, find the best position. Lots of hard, intensive intervals. I didn't train much or many hours anymore, but just really smashing myself every single day, just to get the body to work hard for this 1 hour, to get the body ready. And then in the morning, I actually had to send my dad out of my room. I said, Dad, I think I can make it, but Dad, you make me nervous. Just Dad, go and take a walk. I need some peace. In the first 5 minutes, since I was so ready and excited, I couldn't even feel the pedals for the first 5 minutes. I'm like, oh, this is easy, this is easy. And then after 50 minutes you go, oof, that was just a quarter. And then after half an hour it hit me, okay, this was the easy half an hour. Now the same again, but just getting harder and harder, more painful. And then for the last 5 to 8 minutes, you don't have much memory. You just remember pain in your shoulders, in your neck, in your elbows, in your feet, your butt, your glutes, your back, everything was just hurting and burning. Your heart was beating like it's want to burst out of your chest. And if I look back at it, if I would have had a puncture in the last, 2 or 3 minutes, and I would have missed it, I don't think I would have ever gone again. It was so hard, I went so deep, that I said, nah, I don't want to go there again.
What about the psychology? The last 5 minutes, you know that if you can maintain this, that you're actually going to do the record. Jens Voigt's name will be as an hour record holder. And you have 5 minutes to go. And you know that, as you suggested, everything is hurting, everything is burning, everything wants to stop. What was that like?
I was getting optimistic, like, okay, I got it. I'm like 2 or 3 laps ahead of the record. It should be fairly safe. But I was still focusing until the last moment, like, okay, don't mess it up, don't crash yourself, don't stop breathing, like breathe in a normal rhythm, and don't go too fast, don't change your rhythm. I was really focusing to really make it happen until the last moment, basically. But yes, it was a great feeling.
And the moment the clock struck 1 hour, what was the emotion then?
It was the whole range of emotions. I was relieved that I'm never gonna suffer again like that. No more stress. No more saying no to a beer or to a steak or to a sausage. I can have a sausage, I can have a chocolate. But and again, in the same moment I realized, that's it. I will never ever perform in front of 2,000 people live in the stadium.
100 million.
Or people watching you on TV. You will never ever have that again. And then later that day, after UCI gave me the trophy, the official certificate for the hour record and TV, and I'd be in my little room, take a shower, and then I look at myself in the mirror and go, well, that's it. From now on, you're never ever gonna look like that anymore.
Was there a tear?
Yeah. And also, it was just painful to accept that from that moment on, I'm just getting fatter, slower, and weaker. And it hit me in the guts. I'm like, oh, that's it. I'm never gonna look that fit and strong anymore in my life. That was the hardest thing in retirement. To adjust to your body not being that strong anymore.
So if you had a moment that you could go back to in your career and relive again, what would it be? Where would it be?
That's easy. 2004, Tour of Georgia. 2-man breakaway on a hilltop climb. Lance Armstrong and me. I attack Lance. I take 10 seconds, 20, 30 seconds ahead of Lance. Then Lance comes back. And he had just had more experience than me. He came back to me and he totally bluffed me. He took a sip of his water and talked to me, and I'm like, oh, he's too good, I'm beaten. And then later I looked at pictures of us and he was about to die on my wheel, but I didn't know. He bluffed me. And even later Lance said, man, you almost had me. So now if I would go back, I would see him coming back, and the second he reached my back wheel, I would go all in, make it or break it. I either win the stage and the tour, or completely explode and I lose 2 minutes to him. Because I almost had him, but I didn't know. I was young, I was intimidated, man, Lance Armstrong, Tour de France winner. And he talked to me like he was a bottle in his hand, yeah, Jens, all good. And I'm like, but I almost had him. That's the only one I regret.
We all know how good Lance was at bluffing.
Yes.
You're riding a Trek Madone now, and it's a beautiful looking bike. What is your favourite bike, or what is the best bike that you rode throughout your career?
Well, the question is unfair. I'm on a track bike. I'm here with track people, so there's only one answer left, otherwise I get shot, my friend. No, I was lucky enough to be on good bikes or mostly good bikes throughout my career. So, but now that the latest version of the Trek Madone, that's just a piece of art. It's like a Formula One type of bike. And now I really have to say that is like really the top of the chain and the top of the world basically in the moment. There's not many bikes that come close to it. It's a beautiful bike, plus the way, I mean it rides smooth, great stiffness, aerodynamics, and then with the red paint job, it just looks sexy. The bike looks sexy.
Talking to the local dealer in Bicycle Express, he said as soon as they put them in the window, they virtually walk out the door.
Yeah, that's what he told me. I had a little chat with him. He said he had it in the window for like 10 minutes. A guy walks by, turns around, goes, "I'm having that bike."
Who is the rival that you love to hate? Maybe the rival that you, when he got the better of you, that you just hated that day.
I don't want to say it. I don't want to burn somebody.
No, I don't think you're burning anybody. I think that you're actually suggesting that I'm actually asking the question about there's obviously respect in that question, because if you're looking for a bike rider that you didn't want to beat you, but you actually had to respect him because of his ability.
No, I only had one rider I hated to beat me because I just hated him. So that's why I'm not going to say who it is. But if other people beat me, they were just better. I mean, I don't think I ever complained that the rider beat me because he was lucky. No. If somebody beat me, he was better. Point. You know, there's no complaining, no whinging around. If you get beaten, you got to work harder next time. So I like to beat them all. Let me put it that way. I like to beat them all because that means I'm going to win.
In your early days, you would have had a cyclist that you looked up to, that you may have had a picture on the wall. Who would that have been?
Well, since I come from East Germany and I lived behind the wall, or the way they told us in school, we lived in front of the iron wall. You guys were locked out on the bad side of the world. That's how we learned it. There was a rider, Gustav Adolf Schur. They called him Tewe Schur. He won twice the World Championships. And then we had the World Championships in East Germany as a 3-rider breakaway. Schur again, going for a third title, another German teammate, and an Italian. And the Italian was sure that the German rider wants to win a third title, which would have been unheard of. And so the German knew that, and in order to secure the title, he sent this unknown teammate out to take the jersey. And then he won a sprint for second place. But he sacrificed his legend status with 3 World Championships to secure the win for the team. And I had this picture on the wall. Maybe 65, 64, early years. And then later, I had John Kelly picture on my wall. John Kelly was just as hard as a rock. He would be winning the first race, he would be winning in the middle of the season, and he would be winning the last race. He was just hard as nails. I loved him.
Being German, you obviously would follow other sports as well, and maybe soccer was also a sport that you followed. Who was your favourite soccer team?
Oh, that's a painful question. Because the team I support, they were East German champions in the last year before the wall came down, okay? Then the countries got united, and they would take like, whatever, the first 6, 7 teams of the East German League, the first 10 teams of the West German League, mix it to the German League, right? Because they got to bring the 2 countries together. And then their team had the first match against Bavaria Munich. They won and took the lead. And now they're in a 3rd league. They're in a 3rd league, they're almost bankrupt. They got a problem with violent fans. Like, there's a lot of fighting in the stadium when they play. It's hard to love them. But hey, if you're a fan, you go also together through the hard times with them. But they make it hard to like him. 3rd league, man.
So now in retirement, you have 6 kids, so obviously wherever you go, you need a van or a small bus maybe to cart the family around in. What do you do now? What's your favourite time with the family now?
Well, maybe not Christmas, because, you know, every Christmas you survive without a divorce is a success. Man, Christmas is all romantic on the paper and in your imagination, but when it actually comes down to Christmas, so much work to do, so much stress. I like Saturday morning brekkies. The whole family together. We cook up some eggs and some pancakes. And then people come and go and come back and we chat and laugh. I like this moment the best.
So how are we going here on Zwift? I notice you're pumping out 180, 190 watts, revs a minute, 85. What's the heart rate doing?
I didn't bring a belt, but I can tell you.
I don't think you need a belt. I think you've done that long enough.
I'm sweating like a fat pig, so I'm actually working hard here. But it's good. It's a good workout. Makes a space for the beers tonight. Okay. Because remember, a man is not a camel, so I got to keep drinking.
Do you ride much now that you're retired?
With the 6 kids at home and my wife goes, look, I took all the share of work for the last years. Now that you're retired, you got to do some with the kids as well. I just don't have that much time anymore to train for 5 hours. So I do shorter ones, 2 hours, maximum 3. And I do running, because in 1 hour running, you basically burn as much calories in a 2-hour bike ride. So it's just more time efficient, so I do more running.
I guess you also clean the windows and do the vacuuming now, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yes. I also know how to operate a dishwasher. I know where they have the little pads, and I know how to open it, to close it.
Those buttons can be tricky to find, yeah.
There's about 20 of them. And as an average male, you go, 20 buttons on a dishwasher. What's that for?
Tell me, you obviously started young in cycling. What age did you start?
I was 9 years old, not even 10, when I started cycling. And part of it was I was a troublemaker as a kid. I
can't imagine it, no.
No, I had too much energy. School was fairly easy back then. So I understood it the first time the teacher told us, and then I was bored. And I was talking and distracting other kids. And so one day the teachers came home to my parents. I said, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Voigt, your kid is a wild kid. He needs to do more sport to burn off this extra energy. Lucky for me, back in the days, we didn't have modern words like attention deficit syndrome. So they just said, he's a wild child. Let him do some sport. Nowadays, they would probably diagnose me with 5 different mental defects and would send me to therapies until I actually turned mad. But back then he said, hey, he's a wild kid, let him do some sport. So I picked cycling, trained for 3 weeks, I won my first race, and I was hooked.
So you won your first race, and that was the feeling you were looking for, so maybe this has been missing out of my life. I like this, I might even be good at this. From there it was going, okay, well now I do a little bit more. When's the next race? Is that how it worked out?
Yes. Well, and back then, you train 2 times or 3 times a week maybe for 1 hour. That's easy. If you're a 10-year-old boy, you have so much energy. Every second day, 1 hour bike riding doesn't hurt you. So it was not hard on me. It was just something to do, and I liked it. I could hang out with my friends. I had a whole bunch of friends with me. It was just a great time.
Let's talk about food. Meals. As a racing cyclist, obviously the calorific intake, or there was a large calorie intake required. What did you eat before you actually raced? Say you're riding the Tour de France. Let's give an example of a daily routine of the Tour de France. What would you eat for breakfast?
Well, we always had this fight with the Italians. The Italians always went, hey, pasta. And I'm like, get away with your stupid pasta. Why don't we have just some simple potatoes? Because pasta is not a natural product. It's an artificial product made of white flour?
Yes, flour.
So a potato, it's a natural product. I believe it's much more healthy. But the Italians always went, no, we can only have pasta. Oh man, I had so much pasta. So now I actually don't like pasta anymore. My kids like it. So every time they have pasta, they come running at me and laughing at me, go, Daddy, we have pasta. You hate it, don't you? I'm like, yes, I do. yeah, but we love it, so we have pasta again. And so it would be in the morning, muesli for brekkie, and then maybe an hour, 2 hours later, pasta or rice. Something easy to digest.
And you've just finished the stage. What do we eat now?
Finish the stage. Very important time window is the first 30 minutes after. Whatever you put into your body in the first 30 minutes has a big effect on your recovery. So we had 2 drinks. One was just magnesium, minerals, vitamins, and one was a protein recovery shake to help your muscles to recover, to rebuild the damaged muscle cells. So it was like a liter, 2 bottles, right within the first 30 minutes.
And during the ride, you're riding 5 horse category rides today. What do you eat during the course of the ride?
Fortunately, in the teams I have been in, they give us a wide variety to choose from. You could have power gels, you could have bars, they would prepare little pieces of cake wrapped up in some silver foil. You would have like little mini sandwiches, some fruits, bananas. So it was quite a fair bit of variety, and then I tried to have something different. If it's a long and important stage, I would have a big, massive muesli bar, whatever company, a big muesli bar in a neutral start. So then that would give me enough energy for the first hour of racing, because in the Tour de France, the first hour is basically always full gas. And my job was to cover all the breaks. So I didn't have time to eat or drink in the first hour. So I would drink a bottle of carbohydrates in the neutral zone, plus a full muesli bar, a big one, and then I was ready for the first hour full gas. Didn't need to eat or drink anything in the first hour.
I don't think that we, because of Tour de France, we missed that first hour of racing. I don't think that the public really is aware of what goes on in that first hour and how hard that actually is. Just run us through the first hour of the stage of the Tour de France.
Well, since my job always was to attack or go on the breaks, I remember one time I started, maybe with Bram Tank or Laurens ten Dam. They went, or also John Degenkolb later. They came to me in the morning and said, "Hey Jens, are you gonna attack today?" And I go, "Hey, does the bear shit in the woods?" Of course. So now after that...
That's also very Australian, yeah.
Yes. After that, they came to me like every start, "Hey there, Jens, how about the bear today?" Yes. So they knew when they had to go. But basically, the flag drops and somebody's going full gas. Always, in the Tour, always. So they should actually cut out the middle part of the TV transmission, show the first 30 or 40 minutes, leave out the middle part because nothing happens there, and go straight to the final. It would be much more exciting for the people.
Thank you, Jens. I think we've come to a conclusion there that had a bit of an insight into Jens and even more importantly Zwift and how you can interact with, or actually other participants can interact with you on Zwift. It's been a great morning. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for giving me a chance to talk. And thanks for all the people to listen to my stories.
Well, you're always entertaining and you have a lot more stories than what we've been able to talk to here. Maybe we can talk for another 3 hours somewhere else.
For sure. The latest we do the same thing next year, same time, same hour, next year here again.
We'll be here.
Cool,
Thanks,
awesome.
Jens. Thank you very much.
Alrighty. Goodbye everybody, and thanks for joining us today.